Well, good morning. Today's video, we're going to cover a subject that's been requested by several of the viewers, which is my portable darkroom processing box. This is a wooden box with two arm sleeves that kind of operates like a glove box. The top lid comes off. There is a 3-drawer little file storage box in there that operates like a vertical stack of processing trays, which I've showed you in previous videos. And I'm going to show how this box was made, its basic construction, and how I use it. So stay tuned. Well, an obvious first question would be, why do you need to have a portable processing box if you have a darkroom already? And the answer for me is that my darkroom is in the corner of my garage. My garage is attached to my house. It's insulated, but it's not heated. And the temperature in the wintertime gets down to about 45 degrees Fahrenheit in the darkroom. So it's a little chilly for processing chemicals, paper negatives, film, and all that. You have to end up heating up the space in the wintertime with a space heater, which takes maybe half an hour to an hour, and then you have to microwave all your chemicals up to temperature. So instead of having to heat up the darkroom and get it all set in the wintertime, I just bring this processing box into my kitchen, set it on the dining room table, and I just bring the chemicals in, pour them up in little cups, and microwave them up to room temperature where they need to be. And it really makes it a lot more convenient. So let's go take a look at it. Okay, well, this is the portable darkroom box. This is the left side, has a nice little brass handle. Here's the back side of it, opposite the sleeves. Here's the right side with the other handle, and here are the arm sleeves, which would be the front of the box where you stick your arms in. So the box measures approximately 19 inches square on its floor plan, and it's about almost 14 inches tall. So on the lid here, these two corners have the knobs for pulling on the lid and removing it. The other two corners have thumb screws that you unscrew in order to remove the lid, and then the lid pulls off like this to reveal the inside of the box. These two corner braces hold these 1/4 bolts in place, which penetrate through the holes in the lid for securing the lid in place. And there is a gasket, if you will, of adhesive black craft felt that helps to provide a light trap for the lid. And we'll talk about the light trap more in detail. The bottom floor is, I have a piece of white corrugated plastic, and then I have a tray that I've made out of white corrugated plastic and hot glue gun material. And this is really just a liquid splash tray in the case of liquid splashing out of the file drawers. And this, of course, you might remember from a previous video. This is one of my 3-drawer cube stacks that I use for developing. And I just use Developer, Stop Bath, and Fixer. I don't do the extra rinses in between because there's really no room for those trays in here. But looking down on the top, of course, it sits right in here in the splash tray, and your arms coming through the arm sleeves right here. Okay, a little bit here about the construction details of the box. So, like a lot of my other projects, I like to start with a space frame. This is made out of square sticks that you buy at the hardware store. They're made of poplar, and I think they're 7/8 or close to an inch square. And so you have this space frame made from these sticks, and I use thin countersunk wood screws in the corners along with wood glue. So you start off by making this framework, and then you sheathe the outside of the box in thin plywood after the framework is built, and it makes for a nice, strong and light tight box. I usually put a fillet of glue on all the joints before I paint it, so when you paint it you have all the cracks and everything sealed up nicely. So here is a view of the box looking down from the top with the inner plastic liner removed, and I had reinforced the bottom of the box with an extra set of these sticks before I sheathed it in plywood. And the idea was I originally planned on having this box mounted to a sturdy tripod where I could stand outside and have the box at a convenient height where I could just stick my arms in and process paper. And so underneath this square is a sturdy reinforcement with a 1/4-20 tripod nut, and then this piece of plywood here covers it up to make it light tight. But basically the entire framework of the box is simply put together as a space frame, and then it's sheathed in the plywood. And here is the details of one of those bolts that protrudes up through the lid. There is this diagonal piece of wood that's glued to the underneath side of the sticks here in the corner. It's glued and screwed and reinforced, and then this bolt comes up through a hole. It's locked down with a set of nuts and washers and lock washers, and then the bolt itself is long enough to protrude through a hole in the lid. And then when you put the lid on, the bolt protrudes through the hole, and I have a little light trap gasket of adhesive craft felt that is about the same size as the mounting surface or the mating surface on the bottom of the thumb screw, and you simply screw down that thumb screw and it provides a light tight seal for that bolt hole. Now, for sealing up the lid to the top of the box and making a light trap, the top of the box has this flange formed by the top surface of the framework, and the inside of the lid itself has a square frame. It's a square frame, and it's sized so that it fits snugly along the inside of this box frame. And so it simply fits on like that. And then the surface itself of the lid overhangs the framework enough to be even with the outside of the box. So you have this light trap that's kind of a zigzag. The light has to go in, has to make a 90, and then come back in again in order to leak into the box. And so having this black adhesive felt and the black surface of the box makes for a light trap, and it works very well. The most difficult part about this project was actually the arm sleeves, and they're really the most primitive way to do this. Anybody with a sewing machine and any rudimentary sewing skills could do a better job, but this was what I had to do in my lack of skill. But basically the material that I'm using is this tablecloth material, what they call oilcloth, and this particular one is a black plastic material that's textured, and the bottom side of it has this white felt kind of material. It's tablecloth material. So at my local fabric store, you really actually can't buy true blackout cloth, and the way you can test for light tightness is to bring a bright flashlight, and they have dark fabric that they claim is light tight, but if you actually shine a flashlight on it, you'll realize it's not light tight. But this oilcloth material is, but unfortunately it's very thick. Now I chose to use a double thickness of this material when I made it, and I made it very primitively. So the way the sleeve is joined together is I used hot glue gun, and then I used gaffer's tape on top of the hot glue gun. So it's kind of stiff. And it's very primitive, but it works. Now I chose to put the black lining on the inside. It would be easier to put your arms in with the smooth felt on the inside, but it's white colored and it's not going to be a light seal. I wanted the black surface on the inside to be the light trap. So your arm simply goes in like that. So to make the flanges where the arms go into the box, I cut these 4-inch diameter circles out of the front of the box. Let's look on the inside and see how they made up. So here's one of the arm sleeves. This is the right hand sleeve. So when the arm material goes through the hole, I split it in 4 places, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I simply folded it back and I hot glue gunned it to the inside surface of the box. Then I cut these rings. There are these rings cut from thin plywood and spray painted black, and they sandwich on top of that surface of the arm sleeve. There are 4 machine screws that penetrate through from the front of the box, and with nuts it sandwiches this flange against the arm sleeve material is sandwiched between this ring, disc, flange, and the inside surface of the box. There's also an add-on thing, which was these flaps, and I was concerned about a light getting in, and I wanted it more to seal up around my wrists and my forearms, and so I made these square flaps, and they're made completely out of gaffer's tape. So it's kind of a rectangular, multi-layer assemblage of gaffer tape with kind of a X-shaped hole cut in it, and your arm sticks through, and those are simply screwed on between the machine screw and washers and this disc underneath it. So that's essentially how I sealed it up, and it's worked quite well. I've never had any light leaks at all. If I was to redo this, I would use some true blackout material and have these arm sleeves stitched and use adhesive or elastic cuffs. But for now, this is okay. It is a little bit tight for my arms, but it works okay. So to use the portable processing box with, for instance, 4x5 sheet film holders and maybe paper negatives or Harman direct positive paper, I'm going to first put my film holder right here in the box, and then I'm going to put the lid on, and then I'm going to get my arms into the sleeves. And because the sleeves are a little bit tight, I generally take my watch off on my left arm. It kind of helps a little bit. Then I'm going to get my arms in the sleeves. Remember, the lid is on, so we're just pretending. We're going to pretend that the chemistry has been poured up into the 3 trays here. Developer Stop Bath Fixer, top to bottom. So here is my film holder, and I'm going to pull off the dark slide and flip up the flap, and then here would be my sheet of photo paper. And I usually just place the film holder face down in the bottom here, below the drip tray. So now, having pulled it out, I know this is the emulsion side or the upside of the paper. I usually like to process it face down. So I can reach in and I can pull forward the tray slightly. So I'm going to open up the developer and I'm going to stick the print in face down, emulsion side down in the tray. And I'm going to gently rock it back and forth and side to side and a little bit of up and down like that, just to get the chemistry sloshing, and so the paper is going to be consistently developed. I don't want part of the paper floating on top and not getting enough immersion. I also am going to have a square of paper towel folded up in my hand. Sometimes I leave it down here in the tray, and I will, because I like to push the paper down and make sure it's submerged, and then my finger is going to be wet, so I'm going to dry it with a paper towel. But as I continue processing toward the end of the development, I'm going to pull out the stop bath tray partway, and then I'm going to reach in here and I'm going to grab the print. It'll be emulsion side down. I'm going to let it drip by the corner. And then I'm going to push the developer tray back and immerse it into the stop bath. And I'm going to push it down and make sure that it's immersed and do the 30-second stop bath. And before it's done, I'm going to pull out the fixer tray sufficiently. And then I'm going to grab the print out of the stop bath. I'm going to let it drip by the corner again. Close it up. And then I'm going to put it into the fixer tray. Again, make sure it's immersed. Agitate it a little bit. After about 30 seconds in the fixer, I consider it sufficiently fixed that I can go ahead and open up the box. So at this point, I'm going to remove my hands from the sleeves. I'm going to remove the lid of the box, and now I can go in and I can examine the print while it's fixing, and examine and look and see how it looks, and then let it continue the fixing process for the full 2 minutes that I use. And also, I will take my film holder, of course, and I will flip around the dark slide and get it ready for the next one that I need to process. So that's the process of using the portable darkroom box. I had mentioned one of the main reasons why I wanted to have a portable processing box was for use in the cold months of the year in my warm house. The other reason was really this bigger project of going out in public and taking portraits of people using my 4x5 speed graphic camera and paper negatives, and then processing those paper negatives via this box on this folding camping table where I have all my darkroom supplies at, and then taking this negative and being able to either contact print it with the sun or rephotograph it on an easel on the speed graphic, and then develop the print, the positive image again in the box, and have a 4x5 portrait for people to have out in public. And this was the larger purpose for having a portable darkroom box. And of course this wouldn't be complete unless I showed you some example images processed in the box. These are both Harman Direct Positive prints. These are one-of-a-kind prints. This is the Smith Corona Silent typewriter. This was photographed with the 4x5 speed graphic, and I believe what lens was it? Probably the Fujinon 135 lens. It's a very nice print, and this one is a little bit lighter exposure of the same typewriter, and so does really good job. These fiber-based prints I tape down face up to a sheet of glass with drafting tape or artist tape, and they dry flat and they don't tear the corners or the edges when you remove the tape. But there's two examples of prints that were developed in the box, and it's very satisfying having these kind of pictures that you can process almost anywhere. At the time that I started this project, I knew about this cultural phenomenon of itinerant street photographers in mainly second and third world countries whose business was to go around in public and take photographs, portraits of people, and process them on the spot in these little portable darkroom boxes where the camera was built into the processing box itself. That was really the ultimate aim of this project. This was an intermediate step. Instead of having the camera built in the box, I was using my speed graphic camera separate from the processing box, so that speed graphic would be on its own tripod. I could have a chair for a person to sit in front of and pose them. Then I would take the film holder over to this dark box and process the paper. One of the problems with this whole system is that it would be nice if it was a one-step process, if there were a direct positive paper. Well, there is Harman direct positive paper, but the problem with it is that it is fiber-based. Because it's fiber-based paper, that means it's not plastic coated. After processing and rinsing, so first of all, it needs an extended rinse of at least a half an hour in fresh running water to be archivally processed. So that's very impractical to do out in the field. But even ignoring that need, then the paper has to be dried flat for a long period of time. And it's just difficult to do that out in the field. So because Ilford Harman doesn't make that version of that paper in a resin-coated or plastic-coated finish or paper base, I have to use the two-step method, which is using resin-coated paper as a paper negative and then rephotographing the paper negative as a positive. So it's a two-step process. It's kind of long and drawn out, and I've practiced it using this darkroom box and my speed graphic camera on several occasions, and it works. It's just an extended, lengthy process, and it's kind of impractical to do as I wouldn't really say a side business, but as more of an artistic hobby. It's kind of impractical because people demand the pictures right now. They want something immediate. But it was an interesting experiment. The box still works, and this brings up the subject of another video, which I will soon cover. I've already covered it in the past, is the instant box camera, which is a processing box built into a camera. And we'll cover that in the near future. But until then, this is Joe Van Cleve. I hope this was informational for you, and have a good day.